Right now on Indianapolis This Week, big test, big concerns. Statewide testing begins this week, but will ISTEP be glitch-free? Plus, the NRA wraps up the largest convention ever to come to Indianapolis, and the Hoosier City seeing a rebirth.
This block will build the new YMCA. It's a $16 million project.
What's the secret to Kokomo's comeback? And is the mayor looking beyond City Hall?
From RTV6, the Indy Channel, this is Indianapolis This Week with Rafael Sanchez.
For the second year in a row, a state using McGraw-Hill for school testing is seeing problems again. And while it's not Indiana, IPS Superintendent Dr. Louis Farabee says he's worried about what issues Hoosier students might face again. Oklahoma officials say more than 8,000 students have experienced problems already because of slow or freezing computers. Similar problems were reported there last year, along here in Indiana and 2 other states. We talked to Dr. Farabee, and he says these latest problems give him concern.
We're hoping that whatever's wrong, they can get it resolved in Oklahoma, and we don't have that situation here in Indiana, because it's really challenging for students when they go to test and the technology doesn't operate as it should.
Joining us now are 2 of our political insiders, Republican Jennifer Hollowell, Democrat Kip Tu, and of course RTV6 State House reporter Katie Hines. Kip, does this test have to work next week?
Well, I'm sure hoping, I'm like everybody else hoping that the glitches have been fixed from last year. It's not good for the school systems, it's not good for the students, it's not good for the parents, it's not good for anybody if it's not working. So I obviously can't predict the future, but I sure hope it does work.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say we're all very optimistic. The one thing I would point out, even through the glitches of the last cycle, test scores were up. So we did see that despite having some of those glitches, we don't believe it affected test scores, and test scores were higher. So that's some consolation to that issue. But I mean, I think we all can agree that we want this to go smoothly.
And Katie, at the State House, you've been hearing from teachers and teachers groups, and they're really concerned because they understand that this is really a high-stakes test. Their compensation is tied to this test, but also their academic learning of their kids, which is critically important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot riding on it, and there are concerns that any glitches could foul that up, could really mess it up. I know we also recently covered the teacher effectiveness rankings and showing the overwhelming majority of teachers are effective, but it sounds like this could also play into that if something goes wrong.
I'd say more than overwhelming. Wasn't it 96% that were found effective? So that's more than overwhelming. It's humongous. And
it's definitely a big issue considering that more than half of our state budget goes to education. So we want to make sure that this thing goes off without a hitch.
Yes.
Or without a glitch next week. The other big issue, of course, is the one dealing with ethics, and we turn to that, of course, on legislator Eric Turner. In that case with Mr. Turner, we should point out that the Ethics Commission, he's accused of lobbying his colleagues in private to defeat a bill that would hurt his family's business, but he didn't show at the hearing on the matter. A committee, of course, met on Wednesday to discuss whether Representative Eric Turner violated any legislative rules when he lobbied Republicans in caucus to kill a proposed moratorium on new nursing home construction. Now, Turner's son is the chairman and CEO of a business that develops senior housing. The lawmaker has nearly 40% ownership stake in that business.
There's a lot of things that we don't know anything about, of course. What went on in caucus stays in caucus. As far as everything else, he followed the rules.
Katie, you were at that hearing. He didn't show up. Was there any change in mood or in response to how that hearing went?
No, I wouldn't say that there was. I would say that that portion of the interview you just heard with Representative Kersey is really kind of the biggest takeaway that we had from the hearing. The fact that state law, House ethics rules rather, bar lawmakers from voting on issues that they could directly benefit from. He didn't vote on this issue. He recused himself. However, he's accused of lobbying his Republican colleagues behind closed doors. And right now, one of the takeaways from this meeting, too, the fact that there are no ethics rules that pertain specifically to caucus. So my question, I guess, for the insiders would be, do you feel that there need to be changes to the House ethics rules and ethics here in general?
I think there'll be some folks pushing for that, and that you know, a caucus is a private meeting. What we have now in the state of Indiana, because of supermajorities, is most of the decisions get made and then they're kind of dealt with on the floor publicly. So there's a question about the open door, about the real decisions are getting made behind closed doors, and that I think gives a lot of people pause. But the fact of the matter is, both caucuses of Democrats and Republicans need to meet in private to air out stuff. The question, of course, is about whether or not legislators should be lobbying for their own personal interests inside those private caucuses, and that goes to whether we have a full-time legislature or not, or because we have a part-time legislature, they all have their own jobs, and there's conflicts of interest that are inherent in the system. In fact, the system was designed for that because people wanted to bring their expertise into the legislature.
So Jennifer, is it time to go full-time or to stay part-time?
Certainly hope we don't go to a full-time legislature. And in fact, if you look at some other states that do have full-time legislatures, they're having conversations right now about going back to part-time. I don't think that's the answer. I think we might see some changes to the disclosure requirements so that you capture more interests that legislators may have. But you know, I think that there is real value to having legislators who also have, you know, other careers, other jobs, because they're involved in their community more, they spend more time there, and some of that, you know, value and expertise does help play a role in what they bring to the legislature.
Wrapping up today, the largest convention in Indianapolis this year is happening, of course, this weekend. The National Rifle Association is holding its 143rd national meeting at the Indiana Convention Center. This is bringing an estimated 70,000 people to Indianapolis. Guns and gun-related products have been featured in more than 600 exhibits. Yesterday, the NRA held a stand and fight rally at Lucas Oil Stadium. Is it still possible, or is it impossible, to discuss anything related about guns in our country without it being controversial?
No, I don't think it is possible. I wish it was. I think the president's proposals earlier this year about gun safety registration and those types of things were perfectly legitimate topics that should have been debated on the merits, but instead we have the NRA that has just a knee-jerk reaction to anything related to any kind of thing having to do with a gun, and we have made no progress on this issue, and it is because of the National Rifle Association and their affiliated groups.
I think it's great to have the NRA convention in Indianapolis. It's the biggest convention this year. And I, of course, do disagree with Kip. And what you may not know is that the NRA runs the largest gun safety program in the world. They have thousands of people training people on gun safety, including a program geared toward students that they teach in schools all across the country so that they learn about gun safety and what to do if they encounter a gun. You know, I think it's great to have them here, and I don't think we'll ever agree on this issue. No, but I mean, if you want to talk about knee-jerk reactions, unfortunately, I think that comes from the left, and the answer is not more gun control and gun restrictions, because the crimes that are being committed with guns are guns that are illegally obtained. NRA members stand for the law.
Do you think a background check is a bad thing? You think a background check is a bad thing?
The guns that are used in crimes that have people very upset and worried are not legally obtained. They're guns that people get off the streets. They're not buying these guns at gun shows. They're not buying these guns at dealers. They're stealing them, or they're getting them out of the backs of cars and off the streets. And more gun laws are not going to change that, just like more laws on drugs don't keep people from doing drugs.
Well, I just think that there are some instances where she's right, but there are other instances where we can stop folks who shouldn't have guns from getting them by doing simple background checks and prevent some of the crime. I'm not saying we're going to eliminate crime, we're going to eliminate gun abuse, but we need to do a background check.
You guys will continue the debate, and Katie and I will continue to cover the issue. How about that? Here at RTV6, we are tackling the issue of your public safety. We're hosting a community conversation to talk about the issues of violence, what resources are available to keep the youth off the streets, and also jobs, and what you can do to make your neighborhood better. Our community conversation this Thursday at 7, exclusively on the RTV6 app and the IndyChannel.com. And of course, the conversation between our insiders continues on Twitter. Check out their Twitter handles and give us your opinion, and stay up with Kip, Abdul, Laura, Jennifer throughout the week. After the break, we're sitting down with the mayor of Kokomo, Greg Goodnight. The city known as the City of First, Kokomo, is seeing a comeback. We met with Mayor Greg Goodnight at City Hall, located on Sycamore and Union Streets. A number of projects are going up, and he's very proud of them. We then later sat down in his office to talk about his future, his city, and what's working. Let's talk outside your window. Outside your window, your city is seeing an economic rebirth. What's the secret? What's in the sauce?
Well, I feel very good about the direction our city's moving, and there is no secret. I keep saying that we have to make a lot of the right decisions. It's constant. I hate to use all the parodies with athletics and things, but we have to practice. We have to execute. We have to have a plan. Let me interrupt you.
You are in a manufacturing city. You should be dying. You should be at the bottom of every scale. We are seeing a rebirth in manufacturing, but you're part of the Rust Belt.
Sure.
You should not be seeing the success that you're seeing, but contrary to that, you are.
Yeah, and there's lots of ways to evaluate.
Am I wrong?
No, you're right. We are. There are legacy cities, and legacy cities are your older manufacturing Midwestern cities, and we fall into that category. And I always, when I speak at Rotary meetings or I speak at Kiwanis meetings, I always say there are three types of cities out there in the Midwest and in this country. There are those that are going to make it. There are those that are very likely not going to make it, and then there are those cities in the middle that could go either way. Based on the decisions that their community leaders make. And that goes beyond mayors. That's school boards, that's city councils, that's county government, that's if you have a university or a college in your community, the decisions that the business leaders make. And fortunately for Kokomo, we've had a lot of good decisions made by a lot of different groups and people at various levels. Indiana University, Kokomo, we have an IU campus here. The decisions made in the last 2 or 3 years have increased their enrollment, made it more of a regional college. Ivy Tech has made some decisions here in their strategic investments, acquiring properties and having a strategic plan. Then I look at even Kokomo school systems here. They've added an international baccalaureate program. They've partnered with Butler University for an integrated arts program at the elementary level where the elementary students go for an extra hour and they receive violin lessons every day for a half hour. There's a lot of good things going on beyond just city government. We feel like we are the most efficient city in the Midwest, if not further, and we look at every decision and take every spending decision very seriously, and we've had some proven success while other cities have spent down their reserves and have borrowed to just maintain current services. We've been able to build our cash reserves, still make what we think are substantial quality of life investments, and still make sure that Kokomo is affordable. We have our bus system here in Kokomo is still free to the rider. You don't have to buy a token or pay a fee or pay to ride. It's hop on, hop off, and it's the largest free public transportation system in the state.
Would you consider a run for governor?
I'm focused on the mayoral election 2015. I really want to win, and I want to help our council members that have been helping build this community. I want to make sure that they they're recognized too, and that the voters are reminded what they've done because they've been a huge asset to this community. And the party itself at the statewide level, I'm not an insider into statewide Democrat politics. That's I think there are people in higher office, congressional members and Senator Donnelly and people that have a lot more influence. And the best thing I can do for our statewide Democrat Party is to show that Democrats can be successful in managing cities like Kokomo.
Next, a cultural celebration. Your personal invitation with Indianapolis This Week continues. Joining us now is Carlos May with the Indiana Latino Expo. The Latino Expo is coming up next Saturday. A lot of good things are coming up for the Expo.
Absolutely. This is our 4th year in existence, 3rd year of actually having an event. And every year we seem to get bigger and bigger. So we're starting off with actually a business luncheon with the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Indiana, Sue Ellspermann. She'll be there. She's going to kick off that week of events. On Friday, we've got the Indiana Latino Expo Mayor's Breakfast. And this year we've also expanded. So we invited 25 mayors from across the state. We've got, I think, 9 now of RSVP'd, so they're going to show up. Of course, Mayor Ballard, being the mayor of the host city, is going to host the breakfast. But that's just to warm us up, if you will. Saturday is the actual event.
And so if I'm not thinking from Kokomo or Carmel or Greencastle or Greenwood, What can I expect?
A little bit of everything. Let's start off with the main theme this year. The main theme this year is sports, and specifically soccer. You know, we've got Indy 11, we've got the World Cup, and so we want to tie into that and start it off. So it's kind of a soccer-themed, sports-themed weekend. We're going to have definitely soccer games are going to be going on there. Indy 11 will be there with players, the coach. They're going to be showing us what they do. But then in terms of if you're coming from Carmel and, you know, why do I show up? You're going to get a flavor of all the different Latino cultures that are right now in Indiana in one location. So it's at the Indiana State Fairgrounds, Champions Pavilion, Saturday the 3rd from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And you can show up and you can expect healthcare services. You can expect authentic food, cuisine, representative of all the Latin American cultures that are in Indiana, which is basically all of them. So that'll be a nice flavor. There's going to be dancing. Of course, there's going to be music. So there's going to be the salsa and the merengue and the bachata.
And things for kids to do like last year, right? We see a lot of kids.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The kids are going to have a whole play area. I'm sure that the bouncy houses, that seems to be one of the most popular things. They're going to be there. But then also soccer for the kids, sports for the kids. So it's not just soccer. It's sports in general. But obviously we're honing it in on soccer due to, like I said, the World Cup. But there is going to be a multitude of events. So if you don't speak the language, that's all right. You show up, you're still going to get a nice flavor. There's going to be vendors. There's going to be service providers. It's really a one-stop shop, if you will. If you want to find out about all the different Latin cultures that are here in Indiana, show up, check it out. It's going to be a fantastic event. The mayor and the governor will kick it off in the morning, and then it's just kind of off to the races and have a great time the rest of the day.
You know, the best thing about authentic Latino food, it's all fat-free, I hear.
Yes.
Have you heard that? That's what I heard.
I have heard that. For the most part, it is. Well, that's why you're so nice and trim and svelte. I mean,
it's called HD television.
Oh, is that what it is?
A lot of makeup.
Oh, okay, okay.
Carlos May with Latino Expo. Hey, good luck.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Again. We
will
appreciate
definitely do that.
Coming up here after the break, he's an Indianapolis icon in the world of comedy. I sat down with Mike Epps for a one-on-one interview when we return. One of the biggest names to ever come out of the Circle City as a top comedian is Mike Epps, who stays true to his Hoosier roots everywhere he goes. He's in our Sunday Spotlight. What is funny, Mr. Epps? I mean,
what is funny?
You make people laugh all the time. What is funny?
Funny is to me is the opposite of pain. You know, I think funny is something that makes people feel good. Funny is something that makes people, you know, make life worth living. You know, funny is. You know, funny is what makes it's the cousin of love. You know, it's the relative of love. It's the brother of happiness, and you know.
Is there a power in laughter?
It is. It is. It's a real power in laughter. You know, sometimes you can catch people on a day that's really, really bad for them, and you can say something to people and make them laugh. I say stuff to people just in every day, walking in and out of a grocery store or something, and make them laugh, and they stop and say, you know what, I had a bad day today, and you said that, and that made me laugh, and you know what, I feel really, really good about life, you know?
When did you know you were funny? I mean, did you know you were funny when you were 3? Did you know you were funny when you were 18? At what point did you say, I'm a funny guy?
You know what, when I was a kid, you know, my mom took me to a big seminar. It was like a Kingdom Hall. We used to call it, like, we were Jehovah's Witnesses, and then we had the Kingdom Hall. Okay. And one day I was just sitting there so bored, I took a bunch of pieces of paper and just wetted them on my tongue and put them all over my face. And I stood up in front of everybody, and they all started laughing. And I'm like, you know what? I'm on to something. Now, this is going to get my butt whooped. I'm getting a butt whooping for this, but guess what? When I get grown, I'm going to try this. And I tried it, man, you know. And my first performance was at my grandmother's retirement party at the Tyndall Armory right downtown. And all the kids performed and did a little something for her. And I put on a wig and a robe and went up and imitated her, and everybody laughed but her.
So you were RuPaul before RuPaul.
I ain't gonna go that far to say I was RuPaul before RuPaul. Yeah, but Yeah, that's funny to me, man.
And where do you get your material? What do you read the newspaper? Do you watch the Channel 6 website?
I do.
That's shameless, isn't it? I'm just saying. Channel 6.
I watch the Channel 6. I watch Channel 6. I watch the news. I'm surprised you haven't been shot yet. All the crazy places you go in the city. I'm like, man, this dude here got a lot of heart. You go places I ain't never gonna want to think about going to.
I'll bring you along and make them laugh after I leave.
No. Okay, you show me where you're going, and I'll say, give me a choice to say yes or nay.
But your material, is it from the newspaper? Is it from everyday life? Do you make fun of your wife? Do you make fun of the kids?
I talk about everybody, you know, I talk about everybody. And one thing about being a comedian, some people can't take jokes serious, you know. Sometimes I talk about my kids, sometimes I talk about, you know, and I don't mean to talk about my kids. I'm really talking about someone else's kids, you know, but humor is humor, and I really don't mean no harm. I'm a comic. I talk about people in Hollywood. I talk about myself. I talk about my mom. I talk about everybody. And it is not personal. It's just comedy.
Who is the funniest person to you then? I mean, as you look at the history, we have a wealth of comedians out there. Do you find someone that will just make you laugh no matter what they say? And who are those people? Who is that person?
Believe it or not, I really get a good laugh off of regular, everyday people.
Just regular folks?
Regular people. People that are not comedians. And you know, the real strange part about that is that everybody has a sense of humor. It's just some people are getting paid to deliver it. You know what I mean? And some people, you know, I see funny people every day just saying stuff, sitting at the bar, walking around, you know. People are funny. And all you gotta do is sit and watch people. I sit in the park and just watch people, and I just crack up, bust out laughing.
Yeah, it's called voyeurism.
Is it?
It's called stalking.
Wow.
Yeah.
I might go to jail for that.
Yeah, you may go to jail for that. Mike Epps, thank you for making us laugh.
Hey, thank you, man. I love your work, man.
No,
thank you, man.
Thank you for everything you do. Have a great Sunday. We'll see you next week.